All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us here this afternoon. It's a beautiful day, actually, outside, but we're inside here in the DSRX studios. This is it's actually going to be evolving quite a bit over the next month or so, but we're getting some of our first episodes out. I am here with the Alec Jose, owner of RPE 11, operating out of Dungeon Strength. Welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks. And also General Manager Lucas Hatton, also America's Strongest Man, also the silver bullet in every other show known to man. And he is also going to be the head judge of this year's show at the Rainier Classic.
Yes, sir.
All right. So the goal of this show is simple, really. As we were talking together as a team that's putting on the Rainier Classic, what are we? We're like 11 weeks out
About
now.
that.
We were talking about a few things, and we're like, I mentioned a couple of things to Alec, and he was just like, do other people know that that's the case? I was like, I hope they do. I've communicated out over email or over social media, but if it is not apparent between us what's happening, then most likely the rest of the community doesn't know a lot. So the goal of this show today is to do a full review of the Rainier Classic. We're going to go over the history of the show, the then and now, and then we're going to talk about everything that we're excited about for this upcoming show. What are we trying to accomplish by bringing specific elements to the show this year? Believe it or not, when it comes to the Rainier Classic, it has evolved every year, ultimately with the goal of trying to do what's best for the athletes, first and foremost, every single time. And that's where the show started. That's where it's continuing to go. And we'll talk more about that as we go on. And then finally, as we talk a little bit more about the venue, we're going to talk about where the show is going to go in the future, right? So 2025, 2026, where are our hopes? And for anybody that's watching this video that might be a promoter internationally or anything like that, this is our pitch to you, honestly, because really we're hoping that we can kind of expand and bring great talent from the U.S. hopefully to your shows. So without further ado, let's get started.
Yeah.
Do it.
They're so handsome. Look at them. They're just so handsome. All right, anyway, so first and foremost, for those that don't know, the Rainier Classic, this is actually our fourth year.
Yep.
Fourth year of the show. Mm-hmm. And the three of us have been involved since day one. Lucas was, I'll never forget it. So Lucas actually was just hired onto the gym like about a month beforehand. I couldn't afford him, but I pulled it out of savings. I made it happen because we needed him badly. And he was working too much security, and I didn't want him to do that anymore. I wanted him to be happy. Anyways, and we bring us here to now, but super thankful that he was there. And the work that he did to prepare for that show, not many people know, but he was literally putting in 12 to 14-hour days with me preparing for that show and then competed in it.
Bad idea.
Pretty poorly, but I did compete.
And he did compete in it, and almost, but he's still alive, and obviously he's done well for himself. And then Alec, that was actually the first time I got a chance to meet you, and we had some really good conversations about future stuff we were going to do together.
Yeah.
But Alec actually we needed equipment for that show, and he was one that stepped up and just said, "I'll get it, let's do it." And I was always very thankful for that. And to this day, I'm thankful that you're here and that you're a part of like the gym fam here. Like over the past few months, it's been great. Like just being able to grow together, learn together as we're getting ready, getting these guys ready for a new show coming up. But, let's talk about year one a little bit. What was your favorite part about year one?
Oh, man. I really enjoyed, because I'd been around Dungeon peripherally, but nobody really, like I hadn't talked about my professional background. And like a couple weeks out from the show, you guys found out that my whole career was event management through my security background and just running large festivals and stuff. And you're like, you had all these ideas that were just bad because you just hadn't done it. You just hadn't run. Weren't concerned with the crowd, all that stuff. And I loved how the team just kind of trusted me and just let it go. And that first year, nobody really knew each other all that well. So it was just kind of like, okay, you know something about this, you know something about this. And we just kind of trusted. And in that like blind trust, it kind of just worked.
Great. We've always had a great team.
Yeah.
But it would not have happened. And Rob Kearney was there.
Yep.
Rob and Joey were great contributors that year to that show. Rob actually was a big sponsor, put up a lot of money to help make that show happen. And no, you couldn't have said that any better. We knew what made a great team was we all had our strengths and weaknesses, right? Mine that year was figuring out how to write checks, and somehow I was able to get the sponsors that we got to be able to get to where we were. But what about you, Alec? What was your favorite part?
So coming in, I was obviously just a coach, and what I really liked the most prior to the show and once I got there that was reconfirmed was it was the first Pro-Am, because at the time there's really just Platinum Pluses, right? The Pro-Am kind of notion was gone for quite a while when it came back. So I was excited about the idea of a real Pro-Am because that kind of disappeared in the States for a while. And when I saw the roster, there were multiple World's Strongest Women, multiple Arnold Champion winners, and multiple international talents all signed up for one show in this random place in the Pacific Northwest I never fucking heard of. So I thought that was, all right, so there's something pulling people in here. So they're either good at networking, they're good at building community, or they're good at putting on good shows. And it turned out to be all three. So when I got here, I really enjoyed that. And then getting to talk to you two, specifically and Saul, and sitting down and talking about potential future workings for international shows and ways in which I could possibly help. You all quite receptive and then really enthusiastic. So which kind of goes into what we're going to talk about today. But that was my favorite aspect of coming up here.
And I appreciate that. I mean, and it was also right smack dab in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
Really, and that's the reason why. Right. I mean, all the other shows were shut down. I mean, Hatfield at the time was training out of the gym, and he was getting prepped for the Arnold Australia.
Yep.
And that whole got screwed up because of COVID and everything like that. And so
Caron
really,
too, yeah.
the Rainier, we were kind of like being a pirate ship a little bit because we were just like, hey, let's just do it. Like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, what? Maybe the health department will come in and like slap us on the wrist. But we decided, I mean, just to go for it. And we tried to be very responsible with it. It ended up being one of, unfortunately for the men, we had a lot of men back out, which I fixed that issue later. But it acts, I mean, I'm going to go ahead and just say accidentally, but also purposefully ended up being one of the best, I mean, I'll never forget it, one of the best women's shows I've ever seen.
No, it was the best women's Pro-Am pro show outside of the Arnold Pro period.
Agreed. That's
in North America.
That is fair. I mean, we had the Terminator there, Victoria Long,
Inez Castillo, Kim Dirks, Corey Butler, Nadia Stowers, Gabby Dixon. It was Rachel Bennett. There was an all-star lineup, and a lot of which before people really knew who they were.
Yeah,
and that was
absolutely.
Really cool.
And I just couldn't tell them thank you enough for actually coming in and supporting it. I mean, and the only way that we could do it was we really put a lot of our money into the equipment, into the prize money and everything like that. And so when it came to the venue, it was in our back parking lot in a shopping plaza in Federal Way, Washington. I mean,
Yes.
But dear God, we made it look great
really
and we
fun.
executed. I mean, no, I agree with you guys. That's where it started. Right. And luckily the same team, a lot of the same team that helped put that on the first year is still a part of the team this year to put it on at the Rainier. And bringing that all the way up to this year, right? So, year 2 and year 3, I won't focus too much on those years just because I want to talk more about this year's show. But, this is going to be our first year we're actually indoors. We actually did it out of a dealership parking lot for year 2 and year 3. Honestly, executed great, but weather up here in the Pacific Northwest is very unpredictable. But this year, luckily enough, we had a lot of great benefactors, a lot of great sponsors coming in order to help us. And we just moved into a brand new 9,000 plus square foot facility here in Auburn, Washington. If you're here in the local area and you're looking to train in strength sports, specifically maybe in powerlifting, strongman, weightlifting, I mean, we designed this place just for you, by the way. But that obviously took a lot of our assets, right? And now we're finally settled, and we're getting ready for a new year in Rainier where we're going to be out at the Tacoma Convention Center. So it's going to be a great time. So
it's a massive venue, right? The Tacoma Convention Center.
It's going to be 26,000 square feet that we're going to be able to operate out of.
It's amazing.
So Lucas actually is going to be able to he'll be able to build as big of an arena as he wants this year, which has to be exciting for you.
Yeah. Funny enough, it might actually be the smallest, tightest arena possible.
Ironically enough.
Yeah. Not a lot of big space moving events like we've had out at like what we did up at Burien Chevrolet, but I like kind of the intimate, tight floor when the crowd's like right on top of you. Yep. Like I think it'd be really cool having this new indoor space to control the energy in a different way because it's just a blank canvas and we're not limited by like unlevel concrete in this one part, so we can't use it. It's just flat. It's a blank slate. It's gonna be sweet. I'm really excited. Got my floor planning kind of getting dialed in right now. It's gonna be cool.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to talk about what my favorite parts are. What I'm really looking forward to. Obviously, the convention center is going to be great. Parking logistics is going to be awesome, right? Because we don't have to, partner with the local Fred Meyer in order to make sure we have parking spots. I mean, there's so many things logistically that make it easier. And the team over there at the Greater Tacoma Convention Center, they're awesome. They've been great to work with so far. So obviously, being indoors is going to be great. What we're going to be able to bring from a production perspective, I'm really excited about. So our director here in the room right now, Braden Hendrickson, just brought him onto the team. He's our videographer, and we've got Noah Bond that is also going to be helping, and he's always been helping us with our live streams, always been ready to be able to help there. I'm always very appreciative of him. But we've put a lot of work into being able to bring a very professional live stream experience for the community. Really twofold, right? Because we want it to be a great experience for, let's just be real, like for local families and families of people competing to be able to see and have a good experience for. But also, like, we want really for the show to be a good pitch for bigger shows in the future that want a great production that leads. Great production brings great athletes bring great, events, internationally and above. Would you guys agree?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's happening.
And that's happening right now. And so that's what I'm excited about. Now, what are one or two things that, for the show specifically, maybe you from a events as the head judge, right? Mm-hmm. Like the floor planner and judge, and for you being one of the lead MCs this year, unless some opportunity takes you elsewhere, because there's always opportunities like around for you. But, what are you excited about from that perspective? I'd love to hear from both of you.
Sure, please. From a head judge, logistics coordinator perspective, I am really excited about this set of events. Traditionally, I think the Rainier has always had a throw. It's always been very brutally challenging medleys, which we still have them. But I think this is probably the most static Rainier we've ever had.
Yeah,
very static show.
And it's in the year where the heavyweight men are coming out in force because of that opportunity up north, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yep.
And it's going to be a war with two static maxes. And I just can't wait. And that barbell max and the squat for max, I think those are going to be the highlight reel of the weekend. It's just going to be cool. They're not commonly contested events. And even though it's new events for us, like we're always trying to push for kind of new stuff. Like, I'm excited, man. I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, from a commentating point of view and really just kind of a coach's perspective as well, it still remains to be the most talent-stacked pro show and now pro-am show in the country, right? Mm-hmm. And you can make the debate for North America, but so in having to do commentary for this show and even being a coach for this show, it involves so much more strategy than any other show. I'm kind of just used to prepping people for shows and just sending them in. They usually just do quite well. This is now a show where we really have to prep, and I have to make incredible decisions that will affect the totality of the show, because the end result is a prize that isn't given anywhere else in this country, right? Or in the world for the specific show that people are trying to get to now. And that means quite a lot. So from a coach's perspective, and you're another coaches out there listening to this, this is a show where you want to put all your eggs in that basket. You want to prep really well, and you want to come in smart, because you need to know about the athletes that are going to be competing there, and you need to know about the terrain, the environment, the equipment. And for me, that's really fun. That's like the most fun thing as a coach. And as a commentator, I get to speak about all those things in depth. So it just makes that job very entertaining, as opposed to watching a standard show that we kind of know the end result's going to be in terms of athletes winning, and you just get to go to nationals. This is kind of above and beyond that now.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll talk more a little bit about the specific events here in a second. But really, when we're talking about the show, we want to talk about really one thing I wanted to highlight is really the perks, right? And something that what I've really felt very passionate about since the beginning was treating pros well, right? You've earned your pro card. We want to make sure that you've got a great experience. And historically speaking, in years 1, 2, and this year, I've gotten hotel rooms for the athletes, right, for them to be able to come and stay. We're doing that again this year. I think we were talking, and that may not be, a lot of the pros might not realize that. But yeah, you have 2 nights in a hotel that I'm paying for.
For all pro classes.
For all pro classes.
Middleweight,
if you have a pro card, middleweight, doesn't matter. Pro card. You get that opportunity. And then also, everybody that's a pro that I have contact information for, I have sent an invite letter out to, where I wrote specifically to them, letting them know what the opportunities and the amenities that are involved. And after talking with a lot of the pros, and I think that's been my biggest piece of feedback coming from me as we're planning the show, is getting that letter, because it shows them like how much we care that we're putting something specifically for them together. And athletes love that. Whenever they get those shows, they love to repost those announcements that are getting made. And that's our way of taking it just a step further. We're not just going to design like a thumbnail for Instagram and just say, hey, this person's invited. It's an official letter that, you can bring. We're going to stand by what we say, where you have an opportunity to eat with the DSRX team on Thursday night. Yeah. If you want, you get those rooms. You have another chance to eat with us again afterwards. And then not to mention prize money. And then, and that's specifically for the pros. And I'll talk about the amateur side.
And if I just throw something in as well, sure. These perks aren't offered even at the biggest shows in the world for professionals. Mm-hmm. I coach at World's Strongest Man and Woman. Those perks aren't even offered there. Like this is kind of a very unique thing, and it's really the start of a true pro circuit for not just open, but for middleweights.
And that's the goal. I mean, really, we talked about Strongest Man on Earth this past year and how well of a job that Brian Shaw has done with his show. And Brian, if you're for some reason watching this, we are a big fan of what you're doing. And I've told the team here, we're putting our shoulders backing what he's trying to do. And that is bringing it back to, what's best for the athlete and how can we create a realistic circuit for real opportunity for all weight classes. And right now, there's a lot of things, if we're being honest, and we'll talk more about this in different series that we launch from, DSR Studios, like our points on how, at least from our efforts, we're trying to improve on the current system that's in place. But really, the Rainier is our spearhead to really experiment and figure out what are the best ways to be able to do that. Yeah. And so thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. I mean, World's Strongest Man, hey, if you're not going to buy a flight, and buy your own housing to go to World's Strongest Man, then, it definitely has that clout, versus the Rainier Classic. But the air behind what you're saying is what's really important, and I appreciate that. So now that's for the pros. Now for amateurs, and this is where I want you to talk about it a little bit. We have all competed as amateur athletes in one way or another in strongman or weightlifting, and we know what it's like to try to warm up at a show that doesn't have proper equipment, to be, to have a poorly mismanaged, event for, and it's not necessarily the promoter's fault. It's just the resources that are available to them and so on and so forth. And so we like to go above and beyond for amateurs so that they have the best experience possible. And ultimately, that's why we chose to do a 2-day show, because other than nationals, what opportunity do you have to be a part of a really cool weekend-long show that you could come out, have a great vacation, and just have a lot of fun and not get overly taxed, right? Like doing 5 or 6 events in one day, that's work. I mean, it always is work, but at least you get to be more strategic. You get to think about it with your coach doing 3 events a day. And so, Lucas, from a planning perspective, what we're planning on doing there at the convention center, what are some things that amateurs can look forward to as far as what they can expect?
Sure.
Coming to the Rainier.
And I think as I've grown from kind of the shows and parking lots to getting some of these bigger invites, like the biggest difference is like the amount of thought put into the experience for the athlete. And it's just you talked about it, just a increase in resources for the bigger shows. And what's cool with the Rainier is the experience from people in the Pro-Am to the amateurs. You will get the same live stream, same warm-up equipment in the back. In the rules meeting, I think it's a big, very important thing for me to go over is like not just what we're doing on the floor, but the logistics of how and when you can warm up each event. We're going to take the time to get that extra equipment in the back so you can properly prepare. You put in a real prep for the show. And I think a lot of events where they have a pro class, every bit of effort and extra time built into the schedule is given to the pros. And it's like, no, the amateurs are in the morning. The amateurs get 100% of the equipment and the focus in the morning. And the production value isn't going to waver from one show to the next. We might have some, big cool moments in the pro show, but we're going to get the same kind of coverage in the amateur show too. And I think there's no amateur show in the country where you're going to get that kind of just front to back, give a damn about your experience. And you're just not going to find it. They do a great job at nationals. It's just a lot of athletes to focus on.
The give a damn experience.
There it is.
There it is. We're getting better.
Yeah.
This is episode 2, because you guys did your episode, and we're just we're getting better. This is good. Sorry. All right. So no, that was really good. Everything from we're also going to have a few water station out there and everything, and we're featuring a combo rack in the event. We're going to have multiple combo racks for you guys to be able to warm up on, right? So, it's not just, hey, here's a squat rack to get ready. You're going to have actual equipment you'll be able to warm up on and get ready for the show. And we really do care about that experience for you. I think we've gotten a lot of feedback in the past of I think there's been some misconceptions on oh, man, they're charging that much for a Pro-Am. Well, I promise you this, the first 2 years, the first 2 years of the Rainier, I personally, and I know a couple of my businesses, including this one, went into debt to put on this show. We didn't make dick. Let's be very clear. I want to be, I want to be very clear. And so, but that's because, the whole vision for Dungeon and where we wanted to go with the show is because we wanted folks to know that we genuinely cared about it. So anyways, great feedback from that perspective. Talking a little bit about, we talked about the Pro-Am, talked about the amateur experience. So let's talk about the awards. Sure. What are people fighting for in this, right? And so, really, when it comes to pro card opportunity, we've built a really good relationship with Dion and Strongman Corp to where they trust us to put on the Rainier. And the Rainier is the only, and I've tried to repeat this over and over, it is the only path outside of nationals to be able to earn pro card status.
Yeah, as of right now.
As of right now.
Yeah.
Unless something changes. Now, I'm not sure about the Pro-Ams that are happening in Olympic City and Las Vegas and stuff like that.
I think they've got it.
Did they get approval too? I don't know.
I think they have the same number criteria that we do.
Okay, and if that's the case, that's good news.
Yeah,
that's great news.
It's growing. Those two shows are putting in the effort.
That's great. And so by no means is me saying this trying to thump our chests, like, even though we've put in the work over the past 4 years, but we're trying to provide other avenues to be able to get that, illustrious, pro card status, so you get more opportunities in the future. And so, having a 10 minimum, athlete, piece for, Pro-Am Open and then Pro-Am Middleweight is very important. I just announced here yesterday and working with both of you on, a little bit of an incentive, right, to be able to get more middleweights to sign up so that we can get those minimums in place. And so, Alec, that was a lot your idea.
Yeah, there are other programs that exist in the country right now, and I'm glad they're starting to happen. But this is the only one that's the longest running. Right, There are a few of them have kind of come and gone. Some new ones are coming up, which is great. And I don't believe many of them, unfortunately, just won't quite hit those numbers that they need to put the show on because they're new, and that's just kind of how that works sometimes. This one in particular, featuring middleweights now again because he's done it once before, is huge for that class because that's really the only class at this point, the middleweights, where there isn't a circuit. You're kind of trying to develop that. You're trying to get more people involved. And yeah, I mean, in the inclusion of that's just kind of where the sport's going.
Yeah. And I don't mean to throw a curveball at you, but I'm generally curious from your perspective. I mean, you're a middleweight athlete.
Yeah.
Potentially a different weight class athlete that's looking for more opportunities in the future. And you see the Pro Strongman League and you see a few of these others that are very weight class specific. They're very weight class specific. I mean, what is your take on Pro Strongman League, for example, or any others that are offering those opportunities versus what we could potentially offer at a Pro-Am in the future?
So the difference between this show and other shows, let's use Pro Strongman League as an example, is this show, as it's being worked on now, is going to lead to greater international opportunities as now a portal that's beyond Strongman Corp. Strongman Corp is, you guys have a great relationship with them, that's awesome and all, but as you've already established now with the heavyweight men, for example, and the heavyweight women, which is to be announced soon, or right now even, there is now an international show available to these athletes that they could go to. If you take podium at the Rainier Classic for heavyweight men, and then next year for open weight women, you get to go international, and that's amazing. Mm-hmm. And we're in the process of trying to work the exact same deal with different promotions for middleweights. And there isn't any other show in the country doing that. That's not an option.
Yep, it's very important to us. So what we were able to accomplish, and honestly, a lot of credit goes to Alec and Lucas for leading the charge here with JF through the Canadian Strongman circuit, was to be able to offer that big opportunity to go compete at North America's Strongest Man. And Lucas is going to be, competing at that show, and then the top podium open men get to go do that. And the reason that
and
conversation
women as well in the future,
and women in the future, well, and I don't want to steal your thunder on that. I'll let you talk about that here in a second, but that wouldn't have happened unless the athletes came and supported us in the first few years and allowed us the opportunity to put on the production, right? And we're asking more and more athletes to come and participate in Pro-Ams like this, not just ours in the future, because for us to be able to pitch that, right now we've got that platform. We're able to have those conversations, but we need that, involvement. We need that support in order to continue to fight for you guys. So,
yeah.
And so, but I didn't want to steal your thunder when it came to.
Oh yeah, I mean, Lucas and I sat down with JF as we were cleaning the competition floor because most people had left at this point and didn't really have to do much convincing at all. But
this was at North America's.
This was at North America's Strongest Man last year. Yep. As Lucas and I were helping JF clean the competition floor, we just merely suggested you should do this for women, and he basically said, "Oh yeah, I should do this for women," and that was the end of that conversation. And now there's a new international show. Just because JF ultimately then went back, talked to you guys, got a real understanding of what the Rainier is, and the incredible careers and resumes that have come through this show. It's really the only reason why he approved it, because this show has proven time and time again to bring in the best athletes in North America.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, obviously we're working on things in the background. There's nothing that we can confirm for middleweights this year.
But it's in the process.
But it's in the process. We may have something, but we don't want to give anyone's hopes up for that.
Right.
Lucas, do you have anything you want to add to that side of it?
Yeah, and I think the other side,
like from your perspective as a more elite athlete,
more elite, sure. I think the open men with this opportunity up north have really, I think a lot of them are buying into it. But a lot of these guys right now, they're doing like Shaw Amateur, they're doing OSG, they're not getting to that first place at Shaw or the podium at OSG,
right?
And they're like, well, got to wait one more year.
Right.
To get into the international circuit. Got to wait one more year to get in the international circuit. And aside from And then most of these guys probably also missed that opportunity at the Arnold Amateur.
Right.
They get to do that once. So
And that promise is gone now as well.
yeah, there's a whole group of guys that are just kind of sitting in limbo until they get one of those 4 spots. And they may never get one of those 4 spots, but there's other routes to get into the international scene. And I think you can sit there and spin your wheels, or you can take a shot. And I mean, I'm going to the Arnold UK not off of something that gave me a direct invite. I just took a few shots.
Yep.
And did some networking and did the work, and now I'm going.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's a lot safer and a lot nicer when you get that auto invite, but it's like at some point you got to like compete and build the pitch for yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's also an important point that I forgot to mention earlier is that's the other cool thing about a Pro-Am. When you go to nationals, it's just amateurs, man.
Yeah.
When you go to a Pro-Am, even if you're competing as an amateur not in the Pro-Am divisions, you get to be at the same show as pros that are coming.
Yeah.
And so if you're an athlete that's legitimately trying to get better, how do you get better? Like in rugby for me, football for me, weightlifting for me, the only way I've gotten better is I've gotten my ass kicked, and I've asked and learned and trained to get better with people that are better than me.
Right.
And so if you're an amateur and you're wanting to push to the next level, then why wouldn't you want that experience? And Pro-Ams, there's no other way where an amateur can come to the same experience, have those same conversations.
And we've seen it work before. You know, when you had your middleweight division 2 years ago, we saw an amazing athlete who none of us would have guessed would have podiumed that middleweight division in Sam Ridge. Total amateur, and frankly, did prove that she's pro quality at that level. There wasn't the amount of athletes needed, but you get to have these new rising stars come through. Nez was an amateur the first time she did your show, and she almost beat Victoria Long.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
It was close, that show, absolutely.
And if I may add one thing about North America's Strongest Woman before we move on, for those that don't know, the reason why this year is not a qualifier for North America's Strongest Woman is because just like JF did for the first year for the men, he had me pick the 6 athletes to represent the United States. So they will be going. And then next year, the 3 podium spots at Rainier Classic will provide 3 invites to North America's Strongest Woman, and the 3 that podiumed will get an auto invite back. So just so you understand, that's what's going on this year with that.
Yep.
However, that said, JF is watching the show. We are watching the show. If some of the athletes happen to pull out of North America's Strongest Woman, which is very likely, people get injured all the time, the winner, or honestly the whole podium, we're going to be looking at that podium for potential reserves. So sign up. You might have an opportunity here.
That's a great point. That's a really good reminder. I really appreciate that. So that sets the stage for open. Yeah. And you guys heard from us on what we're trying to do from the middleweight side. And we want to do that for more weight classes too. But, it's got to grow. It's got to grow. And so I got a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth when we tried to bring middleweight in the second year, and I heard everybody wanted to come, and then nobody signed up.
But now there's no excuse. Now
there
every
really
opportunity.
isn't. There really isn't.
There's more opportunity than any show you could possibly sign up for.
And I feel like, when you're checking the Rainier Classic page and Dungeon page right now, I just announced yesterday that if you're a Pro-Am, well, I'll say it again, I'm repeating myself, but it's important. Pro-Am middleweight athletes, men and women, we're waiving your registration fees temporarily up until March 15th because we want it. Everybody that said they want to do it, please register. It's not costing anything to do it because it gives us an idea of what we need to prepare for from a show perspective, and then what we can prepare for as far as a pitch to be able to offer maybe something this year.
More international opportunities.
Exactly, but we cannot do that if there's not folks showing interest.
3 people signed up, and there's 7 that are like, I might.
Yeah.
And I might doesn't do anything for us.
Exactly.
No. If you want your class to have a legitimate chance of more international opportunities outside of what's already being given here, sign up. Yep. You are completely responsible for the growth of the sport, and it's literally in your hands.
Yep. You heard it here. Okay, last point. And I think we're good here. So let's go over the events really quick. And we don't have to do a super deep dive, but I mean, we obviously, we're bringing back an OG event from the first year, which I'm really excited about. And obviously Lucas is our head judge, and really anything in the arena is Lucas Hatton's territory. Everything out of the arena is me and our wonderful event director, Kayla Roper. And so, Lucas, do you want to kind of just give you've been sending out rules videos around the events. Mm-hmm. Maybe just give, a rundown of what they are for amateur and pro-am, right? If you can, and we'll help you try to remember what they are. There's a lot of them. You got it. Okay. And then, then we'll talk a little bit about that and we'll wrap this up.
Sure. I'll go through the amateurs first. So there is a bit of variance between the two, which is kind of a cool wrinkle we're adding this year. Historically, we've done the same event. For this year, we're going to do amateurs and pros a little different. So amateurs, they're going to start off with a barbell clean press for reps. Cool one you don't see much in strongman, just with traditional weightlifting equipment. They're going to go to a sandbag to shoulder for reps, They're going to go into bringing back the year one medley. It was the brainchild of Rob Kearney. In the case of pro men, no one has ever finished this medley. So
Nobody has.
Pretty heavy yoke carry into a keg carry and load and a bag carry and load over your yoke height. So tall folks beware. And you
can blame Rob Kearney if you don't like the event.
And blame Rob Kearney, probably the shortest, really, really competitive pro, thought of that idea.
Yeah.
So day 2, they're going to open up with a deadlift for reps on a deadlift bar. There's all kinds of crazy deadlifts out there, and I think the one we miss in Strongman is just the traditional deadlift from 9 inches for reps. Let's see who's strongest.
Yep.
Didn't do anything crazy there, but I think that'll still be an awesome one to watch. They're going to go into... Oh, no.
Log
ladder. Yep. Log ladder, self-loaded. I am going to send out that rules video here in the next day or two. If you're confused on how to do that, I'll explain how to do it easily. And then the mystery event, which I'm not going to give away now because there's still some testing to do. But if you are training for it, I would get your conditioning up. There's not going to be an echo bike like we had last year, but having your lungs about you, having some endurance about you is going to help you in that mystery event. We're hoping to announce that as soon as possible. Just got to do some testing. It's not going to be a thing where you find out on the weekend. You're going to have some time to train the event.
Yeah.
And for the pros, it's the same events, which is with a few wrinkles. So event 1, we're going to do a max barbell, which should be cool, rising bar style. That's going to get crazy heavy. Very excited about that.
It's going to be very interesting. And also, just really quickly to interrupt, if you're training for the max squat, especially if you're pro-am open men, learn how to bail on your squats. Because I'm not going to back spot you if you don't know how to bail with 800 pounds on your back. I'm not going to. You're just going to be left to your own devices. So, anyways.
Event 2 for the pros. It's a sandbag to shoulder for reps, but it's triple trump style. Check out that rules video on that one. It's kind of going to be kind of cool, really competitive,
really great idea,
and super heavy on the farthest or on the heaviest bag for each of those pro classes. Event 3, they're going to do the OG medley. It's just going to be really, really heavy for the pros, and I want to see if any of these open men can finish it. The ladies finished it year 1. Men didn't have a shot. I think Hatfield got as close as he could possibly get without finishing it.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. So sounds like he's probably coming out again, going to give it another shot. And I think a couple other guys can do it too. Day 2, it's opening with that max squat. Put out the rules video on that. Powerlifting style. So I think that's going to be a cool new wrinkle. Check out those rules. They're going to do a log ladder, not self-loaded. So it'll just be logs, 4 logs straight down the middle of the arena. It's going to be really cool, ending with the Dungeon Strength Slater log for basically all 4 classes. It's going to be sweet.
That's going to be great.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
And then the mystery event.
And then the mystery event.
The mystery event is going to be the same event as the amateurs, but I'm going to be playing with a new, unique format. So
be conditioned.
Stay tuned. Be in shape. and be ready, because it's going to hurt.
Thank you for that rundown. And so obviously you can find all the details for the show at the Rainier Classic Instagram page, and then also we're providing updates as consistently as we can. And then the one thing that I just love about what we get to do as far as planning this is like, what is the one event where we can kind of like tease other sports? And I think we've got a lot of questions before, like, we did the regional qualifiers for OSG, and we decided to do, a combine bench.
Yep.
And combine bench. And oh man, that was great. I mean, just getting all like the haters out there and like everybody that was excited about it. It's like, this isn't strongman, everything like that. I mean, it's kind of the point, right? So like, we're doing this because 2 main reasons. Number 1, strongman as a sport, the reason why it's not mainstream right now is there's a lot of misconceptions around us as athletes. One of them being is that nobody really understands how to be able to translate the cool things that we're doing into what they know in mainstream sports. Right now, and we all know it's bullshit, but at the NFL Combine, it's about to happen in about a month now, the bench press, 225-pound bench press, is the standard for strength for coming into the NFL. Are you kidding me? You're kidding me, right? Like there's no powerlifting. We all know that, but that's what the vast majority of fans in this country watch from that perspective is the NFL. And so how can we best be able to do some collab a little bit and say, fine, cool. I was really hoping that somebody would come out and beat the combine record, but didn't happen. Didn't happen. I think the closest that somebody got was like 39 or something like that, I think. Or I don't know if anybody got 40.
I went 42 on the night before. On setup day.
You got 42 that night?
Yeah.
That's nuts. I think the record is Stephen D at 51. I think
It's disgusting.
or something like that, which is disgusting. But point is, and then last year we did the CrossFit quote unquote medley.
Yep.
But did you guys not watch the games like last year? I mean, they were killing it with like the sandbag to shoulder and everything like that. I mean, we have to, in our opinion, as a promotion team, we have to find great ways to be able to collaborate and show, hey, what we're doing is legitimate. We could do the stuff that you're doing and then vice versa, and it's only going to be healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys think? That's my opinion on it, but we've all talked about this. We've debated it.
And this year we're kind of doing it twice.
Yep.
We're doing the barbell max, the barbell for reps, which it's not going to be as pretty as you'll see on the weightlifting platform.
No.
There's going to be
That's why
some
I'm excited.
disgusting continental cleans and push presses. We might see a sweet squat clean into a pretty split jerk. We'll see.
Yep.
We'll see.
We're going to see
we'll
a zombie
more,
catch probably. Maybe.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll see a lot more traditional weightlifting from our weight classes
Yes.
than our open dudes.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a direct comparison to like a sport that's been around for the better part of a century.
Right.
And then the squat. Everybody knows the squat. And we're doing it not the way Strongman does it. We're doing it the way the rest of the world does it.
Powerlifting rules, baby.
Get low.
Sweet comparison.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're not doing all the extra equipment nonsense that Strongman's known for. We're just doing sleeves, belts, wrist wraps. Let's see who can squat the most.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for your time today. This was really good. Is there any other closing points that we want to talk about?
Yeah. Did you want to bring up the amateur sponsorship?
That is exactly what
way
we
to
need to
close
close
out.
on.
Great.
Go ahead, buddy.
So going back to the weight classes and reason why you should continue to sign up for these middleweight divisions. If you're an amateur on the edge of your seat and you're like, I'm not quite sure if I'd podium, there's some good pros there, yada, yada, yada. There is an independent sponsorship from RP11. The highest ranking amateur in the middleweight divisions will get your own prize purse. So if you quite come short, you fall short of that podium or whatever, you will get your own prize purse for being the highest ranking amateur. So there is no excuse now to sign up. It will cover your entry fee at a minimum and probably buy you a really nice dinner. Sign up.
So that is for pro-am middleweight amateurs.
Correct.
That come and compete. Man,
Correct.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And we're also going to be providing more prize money on top of that as well for the pro-am. So that's pretty nice incentive for me. That's what I'm saying. So anyways, awesome. Any final points from you? You good?
No, I'm good.
I think it's time for us to go train, right? So
it is.
Once again, thank you for joining us. We tried to keep this pretty short and sweet. I think we did a pretty good job of it. But once again, thank you to Alec Jose from RP11. Thank you for being here. Lucas, General Manager of Dungeon Strength, and my partner, and then also Ryan Terry, just the check writer. That's me. If you have any questions, make sure to follow, like I said before, follow at Rainier Classic on Instagram. We're really great at getting back to questions. So, DM the gym or Dungeon Strength _RX or Rainier Classic. We'll make sure we get back to you as soon as we can. So until next time, we'll see you guys.
Okay.